أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين ولا عاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم عبد الله ورسوله. أما بعد, we thank the Almighty Allah for giving us another opportunity to be here. We thank Him for His mercies that He's bestowed upon us. We bear witness that there is no deity worthy of worship except the Almighty Allah. We also bear witness that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is His servant and His messenger. Whosoever the Almighty Allah guides is really guided, and anybody who goes astray has nobody to blame but themselves. Alhamdulillah, today is the 26th day of Ramadan, 1444 years after the hijrah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It also corresponds with the 17th day of April 2023. Yesterday we completed Surah Al-Ma'un, and Surah Al-Ma'un, as we said, has a lot of significance like every other surah in the Quran. When we speak about the significance of a particular surah, unless we have a hadith that speaks that this surah has this virtue, for example, Ayat al-Kursi and Surah Al-Fatiha, Surah Al-Baqarah, we have a hadith speaking about their virtues and their importance. When I speak about, the significance of a surah in terms of the message that the surah gives. So for example, Surah Al-Ma'un starts with, someone concerning people who reject the day of Qiyamah. And then the Almighty Allah comes to speak about social reforms, helping the poor and then the needy, especially the orphans, the widows, and the poor people. And then finally, the surah speaks about, the importance of salah. And we made mention that the first act that will be questioned upon on the day of Qiyamah is as-salah. And that's the pillar of al-Islam. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is reported to have said, Al-ahdu alladhi baynana wa baynahum as-salah. The difference between us and the non-Muslims is as-salah. Man tarakaha faqad kafar. Anybody who neglects salah has apostated. And we made mention of the fact that you don't say you are a Muslim, but then you don't practice. It's something that, I'm trying to get my head around, that I'm a Muslim, but I don't practice. Your tawheed and your aqidah is your passport. Your salah and your ibadat are your visa. And then the rahmah of the Almighty Allah is the plane ticket to Jannah. Let's have this at the back of our minds. Your tawheed, your aqidah, very, very important. Because if you have tawheed and aqidah, you believe in the Almighty Allah, you believe in the angels, but then your actions do not manifest that, then your aqidah and your tawheed is zero. So you don't say, I believe in Almighty Allah, I believe in the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but you don't do salah. When Ramadan comes in, you don't care, you don't do sadaqat, you don't do all these good things. Then your aqidah is just like, oil on top of water. Same way, if you say, but then your aqidah is problematic, you believe someone other than the Almighty Allah can give you something that only the Almighty Allah can. So when we make sure that our aqidah is strong, it's sound, our belief in the Almighty Allah, our reliance upon the Almighty Allah is well grounded, and then we come and worship the Almighty Allah the way He deserves to be worshipped. Then comes the rahmah and the mercy of the Almighty Allah. Because yesterday we read a hadith where the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Lan yanjuwa ahadukum bi'amalihi." None of you will have success on the day of Qiyamah solely based on his deeds. You're not going to go to Jannah solely based on the fact that you're offering the 5 daily salah. No. The Sahaba were like, "Walau anta ya Rasulallah." Even you, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Hatta ana." Unless the Almighty Allah clothes me in His mercy and then I enter Jannah. So if the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying that he himself is the mercy of the Almighty Allah is going to get him into Jannah, imagine you and I. We need triple mercies from the Almighty Allah. We need double mercy. And this hadith is trying to teach us to be humble when we are doing ibadah. Because sometimes some people will worship the Almighty Allah, but then they feel big. They feel that others are not doing enough. That, yes, I'm just from the Masjid and these people are just by the street side, playing cards or playing dominoes. I'm better than them. No. The moment you have that feeling that you are the one who is worshipping the Almighty Allah and others are not worshipping the Almighty Allah, that in itself is a form of show off. That in itself is a form of riyah. May the Almighty Allah safeguard us. In the classes that we are taking, we are supposed to do Surah Al-Quraysh. But then there is a relationship between Surah Al-Fil and Surah Al-Quraysh. And we need to do Surah Al-Fil before we do Surah Al-Quraysh for us to really understand, the relationship between them. So Shaykhana, can we go to Surah Al-Fil? Alam Tara.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
نعم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل؟
نعم.
ألم يجعل كيدهم في تضليل وأرسل عليهم طيرا أبابيل ترميهم بحجارة من سجيل فجعلهم كعصف مأكول.
Al-Fil means the elephant. That's what it means. The chapter of the elephant. And Almighty Allah, in His own ways, gives us different messages in the Quran the way He wants. So for example, in the Quran, you find Surah Al-Ankabut, the chapter of the spider. You have Surah Al-Nahl, the chapter of what? Surah Al-Namli, the chapter of the ants. Surah Al-Nahl, the chapter of the bee. And Surah Al-An'am, the chapter of cattle. Surah Al-Baqarah, the chapter of the cow. The Almighty Allah, it is not just for fun that He names some of the chapters of the Quran like that. There are lessons to be picked from it. For example, if you take Surah Al-Baqarah, some of the scholars are asking, why did Almighty Allah name the chapter Surah Al-Baqarah when in the chapter we have At-Tayr, birds, we have Al-Ba'udha, mosquito, we have Al-Himar, donkeys, all in there. But then the Almighty Allah chose to name the Surah Al-Baqarah. They said the story of Baqarah, the story of the cow, is a test for Bani Israel, where the Almighty Allah tested them to slaughter a cow. And then they put on themselves all forms of injunctions and all forms of excuses, and then they failed. So the Almighty Allah is reporting that story for us in the Quran so that we Muslims, when we come, we don't follow the path of Bani Israel in disobeying the Almighty Allah. So that's the moral behind it. So when you see in the Quran a chapter of the bee, the chapter of the ant, the chapter of the elephant, the chapter of so and so of the stars, it is not just for fun. There is a lesson in it. So Surah Al-Fil, the chapter of the elephant, has a reason behind it. And this surah is also one of the evidences to prove that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is really a prophet of the Almighty Allah. There is a history behind it. In the pre-Islamic era in Arabia, the Abyssinians, Ethiopia, were in control of parts of Yemen. And then they had their emissaries and then their ambassadors there. And they were Christians. And then, before that, there was the Kaaba. Let's start with the Kaaba first. We have a lot of narrations concerning who were the first to build the Kaaba. Some, I think, Al-Azruqi in Akhbaru Makkah says the first ones to build the Kaaba were the Malaika. And then the second person or the second to build the Kaaba is Adam alayhi salatu wassalam. And then the third one is the children of Adam, they built the Kaaba. And then the fourth one is the building of Ibrahim and Ismail alayhi salatu wassalam. Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam, you know the story of his wife Hajara and then Ismail. To just cut a long story short, Ibrahim built the Kaaba. And then he left it with his son and then the wife. And then that area was a desert, no life. But the Almighty Allah gave them Zamzam. So that area became a transit point for caravans and travelers. So they get there, they rest for a while, they drink the water, they refresh themselves, and then they move on. Then they decided that, why don't we start, camping here? So in the end, Mecca became a city where, you have all these different tribes from Yemen, Jurhum and the stuff. They came and then they settled there. And then the leadership of the community was changing hands from one tribe to the other tribe, from one tribe to the other tribe, until it got to the tribe of Khuza'a. Their leader was called Amr ibn Lu'ay. He traveled to Syria, and then he found the Arabs there. They were worshipping idols. And then he was given the idol called Hubal, the big one, and then he brought it, and then he put it into the Kaaba. That is where idol worship started in Mecca. This tribe, Khuza'a, their leader, Amr ibn Lu'ay, he brought it. So it got to a point whereby almost every house in Mecca had an idol. Every corner in Mecca had an idol. It got to a point whereby in the Kaaba alone, there were 360 idols in the Kaaba. And some of the Sahaba reports to us that if they are traveling and then they don't have an idol to worship, they will milk their goats or their sheep. And then they will find some dust, earth. And then they mix the milk of the goats with the dust, and then they form an idol with it to worship. So later, Quraysh took over the leadership of the Kaaba. So the Arabs in pre-Islamic era, they had remnants of the deed of Ibrahim. So Hajj was still practiced. Ibrahim started Hajj, and there was Tawaf still there. There was Sa'i between Safa and Marwa still there. And some of those rites were still there, but then they were mixed up with a lot of shirk and kufr. So even that, the Arabs still revered and respected the Kaaba. It was a holy place for them. They traveled there. So when these Ethiopians took over Yemen, they got information that there is a house deep in the desert where the Arabs used to go there every year to worship. So they decided to build a house that will rival the Kaaba to take away the attention of the Arabs from Mecca to Sana'a. So they built a huge cathedral because they were Christians. And they named it Al-Qullais. They built a huge one. And they put in a lot of money, make it a tourist attraction, make it a place whereby, because if they're able to rival Mecca, they will get all the trade benefits that Mecca has. They will get the sanctity that Mecca has, the sanctuary, the respect, the holiness of Mecca, and all the good things that comes with it. Then one Arab guy, he just went into the church and then, he defecated. Out of frustration. That they are building, a building that is going to rival, the Kaaba. So Abraha, even though I have not, through my, research on this subject matter, I have not come across an authentic narration that mentions his name as Abraha. But then that's the name that he's being called, Abraha. And he gathered an army because his church has been, desecrated. He gathered an army to go and destroy the Kaaba. So that is how the story of Al-Fil comes in. So he moved on the way. Some Arab tribes, tried to stop him. He defeated almost every army that stood on his path. So they got to Mecca, and then they camped outside Mecca. And on the way, he captured some camels and some animals and, some livestock belonging to the people of Mecca. So he sent an emissary into Mecca to speak with the king of Mecca or the chief of Mecca. And that you should let the chief understand that he is not here to fight the people of Mecca. He is just here just to destroy the Kaaba. That's why he has come. So there's no need for war. There's no need for bloodshed. And he has come with him an army of almost 60,000 strong. And the people of Mecca cannot stand him. In his army, he had horses, he had camels, he even had elephants, part of the army. So the people of Mecca cannot stand him. So when he went, this, emissary, this ambassador, when he went into Mecca to speak with, the chief of Mecca at that time, Abdul Muttalib, the grandfather of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he told him, I'm the emissary of so and so. And then Abraha told him, when you go observe the man. If you see some signs of nobility with him, bring him to our camp. I need to see him. So they came with Abdul Muttalib to the camp. And then Abraha, was confused. This guy, when he saw Abdul Muttalib, he saw some radiance of respect and nobility with him. So he was like, if I put him on the same seat next to me, I've put him on the same seat next to me. If I let him sit on the floor and I sit up, I've disrespected him. So he decided to sit on the floor with him. So they had a discussion. And then Abdul Muttalib asked him, what brings you here? He said, I've just come to destroy this house. And that's it. There's no need to be fighting. There's no need to be war. And Abdul Muttalib said, okay, no problem. That's between you and the owner of the house. And he said, but for me, you have, confiscated 200 of my camels. That's why I'm here. I'm here for you to give me my camels. And Abraha was like, what kind of nonsense is this? I've come all the way from Yemen to come and talk about a house which is the dean of your fathers and your grandfathers. And you are speaking to me about 200 camels. He said, the camels belong to me. But the house has a Lord who will protect it. So I'm here for my property. Abraham said, no problem, we will destroy the house. So in a long shot, to cut a long story short, they attacked the Kaaba, and Abdul Muttalib went back, and then he told the people of Mecca, I've seen the soldiers that you've brought, we cannot stand them, leave Mecca. Leave and go away. Just go into the mountains, leave the city center for them. So these people entered, and then the Almighty Allah, destroyed them. So in destroying them, the Almighty Allah revealed this surah. Sheikh, let's take it one after the other.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Naam.
Alam tara kayfa fa'ala rabbuka bi ashabil fil.
Alam tara, haven't you witnessed? Haven't you seen? Aren't you aware? Kayfa fa'ala rabbuka bi ashabil fil. How your Lord dealt with the people of the elephant. This thing happened, and the historians have differed concerning the exact time or the exact date that this has happened. Because the Arabs before Jahiliyyah didn't have a specific system of counting of years. Unlike the Persians and then the Romans and even the Indians, the Arabs didn't have such sophisticated way of counting of years. So they use situations and happenings to denote a year. So Amul Fil, the year of the elephant. Amul Huzn, the year of what? Of grief. It was until the 17th year of Hijrah when Umar ibn Khattab received a letter from his governor in Syria, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. Abu Musa al-Ash'ari wrote a letter to Umar ibn Khattab that, Amir al-Mu'mineen, I have 2 letters with me from you. All of them have Ramadan. But I'm not able to differentiate which one comes first and which one comes second. Because it's just Ramadan on it. There is no year to denote it. So Umar ibn Khattab gathered the Sahaba. In another narration, 2 people came to Umar ibn Khattab with a case. I have borrowed money from the Sheikh, and I'm supposed to give the money back to him in Ramadan. Now it is Ramadan now. And he says it is this Ramadan. I'm saying no, it is next Ramadan. Because on the agreement paper, nothing has been written to denote which exact Ramadan is. So Umar ibn Khattab gathered the Sahaba. This is a lesson here for us, students of knowledge, that don't be quick in giving out fatwas. Don't be quick in giving out a verdict. Umar ibn Khattab is faced with that issue, and Umar ibn Khattab says, Sahaba, come and let's sit and let's discuss this matter. So what's the issue? The issue is we don't have a system of counting. And this is the problem that we have. How do we solve that? Some of them say, why don't we use the system of counting of the Romans or the Persians? They said, no, we are an independent community. We are Muslims. Why do we have to copy something from the non-Muslims? We need to have an independent identity. So let's find something that really relates with us. Some of them said, okay, why don't we use the birth of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ as a counting point? And they said, no, we don't know when he was born. Because that's a fact. If you look into our historical books, we don't have an exact date that says this is when the Prophet Muhammad was born. We don't have that. He told us that he was born on a Monday, and then that's it. As to which of the Mondays it is, it's a difference of opinion between scholars. That's number one. Even the month in which the Prophet Muhammad was born is also a difference of opinion between scholars. The majority of the historians say he was born in Rabiul Awwal. That's what the historians say. Even though some of them say he was born in Ramadan, some say he was born even in Rajab. But then the majority say he was born on what? In Rabiul Awwal. Even in Rabiul Awwal, they don't agree on what day. Some say he was born on the 12th, some say he was born on the 9th. Al-Khawarizmi, the mathematician, calculated, and then he sides with the 9th and not the 12th. So even the Sahaba said we don't know when he was born. So we cannot use that as a what? As a reference point of using dates. So they agreed, okay, we are going to use the Hijrah. Reason being, the Hijrah was when we became autonomous. The Hijrah was when we became an independent state. The Hijrah was when we became what? Free to do whatever we want to do. So they decided to use the Hijrah as the starting point of the counting of the Islamic calendar. But then again, the Prophet Muhammad did not migrate in Muharram. He migrated in Rabiul Awwal. So how come they didn't use Rabiul Awwal as the first month, but then they used Muharram as the first month? The reason being is that they decided that let's make Hajj the last activity of the year. And Hajj is in Dhul Hijjah. So the moment the pilgrims leave Mecca and then go back to their countries or their villages, the next month becomes what? The beginning of the year. So we didn't have that exact system of calculating. It was only the time of Umar ibn Khattab that this happened. So the reason why I'm saying this is that this thing happened before the Prophet Muhammad was born. This whole incident. It happened before the Prophet Muhammad was born. But then, what's the distance? What's the time? How many days? How many years? And here too, the historians differed. Some said 40 years before he was born. Some said 30 years. Some said 20 years. Some said 2 years. Some said 1 year. And some of them said 50 days. Before the Prophet Muhammad was born, this incident happened. So the Almighty Allah is telling the Prophet Muhammad Alam tara kayfa fa'ala rabbuka bi ashabil fil. Haven't you seen? And he was not there. He is not aware of it. This thing happened before he was born. Even though some other historians said he was about 5 or 6 or even 10 years when this thing happened, even though that is even a weak, narration. It's a weak report. And those other reports that we spoke about, the differences of opinion, it's not that they are authentic. No, it's just that guesswork between, historians. So the Almighty Allah is emphasizing the prophethood and the truthfulness of the Prophet Muhammad that he is able to give account of information that happened before he was even born. And Almighty Allah said, Alam yaj'al.
أَلَمْ يَجْعَلْ كَيْدَهُمْ فِي تَضْلِيلٍ.
Didn't the Almighty Allah make their plans at a loss? The plans that they came with to destroy the Kaaba, the Almighty Allah made those plans, useless. Because understand one thing, the Kaaba is the house of the Almighty Allah. And even though at that time they were worshipping idols in there, the Almighty Allah still took it upon himself to protect his house. And so this is a message to anybody who has any ill intentions towards the Kaaba. And I remember in 1979, Firqatul Juhayman, they entered the Kaaba with machine guns. It happened in 1979. In the Haram, when they bring the corpse for Salatul Janaza, so these people, they packed guns in there to look as if they are corpses. And then they held the Haram hostage. And there were shootings even in the Haram. Because the Prophet Muhammad said that at the end of time, one of his children, Al-Mahdi, will appear, and Al-Mahdi will receive bay'ah in the haram. So these people, they just caught someone and then they say he's the Mahdi. They brought him into the haram to force people to accept him as the Mahdi. And if you're not going to accept, there's going to be shootings and stuff like that. Over the years, historically, the Kaaba has been faced with all kinds of machinations and all kinds of what? All kinds of evil schemes. So apart from the fact that Abraha came with his soldiers to destroy the Kaaba and then he lost, during the time of Abdullah ibn Zubayr ibn al-Awwam, he was, he was a Khalifa. Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi attacked the Kaaba and the Kaaba was destroyed. And Abdullah ibn Zubayr rebuilt it. And afterwards, they destroyed it. After he was killed, the Kaaba was destroyed and rebuilt again. So the Kaaba has been destroyed and rebuilt a number of times. And in the last 3 centuries, it was built a couple of times because the last building that you see right now, there was a heavy rain in Mecca and then the walls of the Kaaba broke down. They had to use cloth to cover it for the people to do tawaf. And they later rebuilt it as you see it now. So this building is more than 100 years old, this one that you see. And the building of the Kaaba has been in stages. Let's take one that is most important in the history. When the Prophet Muhammad was 35 years old, there was a rainfall and the Kaaba was destroyed. Ibrahim والسلام, when he built the Kaaba, he didn't put any roof on the Kaaba. There was no roof. It was an open top. As you have your cars open top. It was open top like that. And when the Kaaba was destroyed with rain, the kuffar wanted to rebuild the Kaaba. Then they initiated a communique. And listen to this very careful. They were kuffar. They were worshipping idols. But then when they wanted to gather funds to rebuild the Kaaba, they said anybody who has haram money shouldn't bring it in the building of the Kaaba. Let me repeat. They were idol worshippers. They were alcoholics. They were promiscuous people. But when they were rebuilding the Kaaba, the committee that was instituted to raise funds to rebuild the Kaaba, they said, don't bring haram money. Because they understood the sanctity of the Kaaba. Today, some Muslims go to Mecca with haram money. The kuffar in Jahiliyyah understood the sanctity of the Kaaba more than some of us modern day Muslims. Some people go to Mecca to go and sell drugs, we know. Some people go to Mecca to go and steal. Some people go to Mecca to go and cause confusion. There are rules and regulations of going to the haram. You see, Mecca is not like Philadelphia. The intention of doing wrong in Mecca is a sin. Just to think of doing something wrong in Mecca is a sin. In Mecca, you don't pick a lost item. You see here in the Masjid here, if you see someone's lost item, Islam gives you the opportunity to pick it and look for the owner. Some of the scholars say 3 months, some say 1 year. After 3 months, if you don't find the person, it's yours. But in Mecca, if you see a lost item and then you pick it, you look for the person until the day you die. So this is finding a lost item. So imagine those who go to steal in Mecca. That's double jeopardy. In Mecca, there is no argument. You don't argue in Mecca. Imagine those who go to fight. There is a very embarrassing story. 3 people went to Mecca. A man and 2 women. And in Mecca, he was dating these 2 women. He has gone for Hajj. And these 2 women beat each other because of him. Very embarrassing story. 3 people go to Mecca. There are 3 categories of people going to Mecca. The first person is someone who, because of his overzealousness, he goes to Mecca and then he goes and does extremities. He goes and then he prays nafila where there's no need for him to pray nafila. He goes and then he's here. He goes and then he's here. He goes here. He just roams about because he doesn't understand, the sanctity of Mecca, and then he didn't learn anything. He understands the sanctity of Mecca. He knows. But then لِفَرَطِ حُبِّهِ وَجَهْلِ, because of his overzealousness in his love and then his ignorance, he goes and does things that he's not supposed to do in Hajj. That's the first person. The second person is someone who doesn't even understand the importance of Mecca. He goes there, he does all kinds of things. And then the third person is the person who understands the hurma of Mecca to Mukarramah. So in Mecca, there is no fighting in Mecca. Where was I until I diverted and came back here? So, this is the Firqat Juhayman. So we were speaking about the Prophet's time when they were building the Kaaba. So the committee said nobody should bring haram money. They were not able to gather enough funds to build the Kaaba exactly as it was. So they built half and then they left half. So if you go to Hajj, you see there's a semicircle near the Kaaba. See that semicircle, that space in there, that's called Al-Hijr. It is part of the Kaaba. If you enter there, it is like you've entered the Kaaba. There's no need for them to open the door for you to enter the black box. No. When you enter there, you've entered the Kaaba. So they were not able to build all of it because they didn't have enough funds. Enough halal funds, so they left out the semicircle. So Am al-Fathi, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or Hajjatul Wada, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told Aisha, he said, Aisha, if not for the fact that these people are new Muslims and that they understand the sanctity of the Kaaba, I will have destroyed the Kaaba and then rebuild it on its original foundation of Ibrahim. But then I don't want to raise any confusion. Because if I say I'm going to destroy the Kaaba, these people, they revere the Kaaba and they are new Muslims. If I say I'm going to destroy the Kaaba, they will say, oh, Muhammad is not even a true prophet. He's destroying the house of Allah. So the Prophet Muhammad left it like that. So Abdullah ibn Zubayr, whose mother is Asma, the elder sister of Aisha, she was speaking to Abdullah ibn Zubayr concerning this in conversation she had with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Abdullah ibn Zubayr, when he took over the charge of Mecca, and then he was attacked, the walls of the Kaaba became weak. So he destroyed the Kaaba and then he rebuilt it on the original position of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, as how the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said he's going to rebuild it. And then later when he was killed, Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi, from the order of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, they destroyed the Kaaba and then they rebuilt it back the same way the Quraysh built it, leaving out that semicircle. So these are some of the buildings of the Kaaba, and then it has remained like that for more than 1,000 years. It's built like that. And so the Almighty Allah said, Alam yaj'al kaydahum fi tadlil. Didn't the Almighty Allah leave their plans into loss? Apart from that group that destroyed the Kaaba, there is Abu Tahir al-Qarmati, al-Qaramita. Al-Qaramita are extremist Shia. They built a city and they wanted to turn the attention of Hujjaj from Mecca to their city for the people to perform Hajj. And these people, they claim they are Muslims. So they entered Mecca with soldiers and weapons. And they killed almost 30,000 Hujjaj. And then they destroyed the well of Zamzam. The Qubba over it, they destroyed it. And then they broke the doors of the Kaaba open. They stole the treasures of the Kaaba, and then they stole the black stone and took it to their city. Their leader Abu Tahir al-Qarmati, after stealing this black stone, he got sick that his whole body started rotting. Some historians said that they had to use 200 camels to carry the black stone to their city. If they put the black stone on one camel, it will walk for a few moments, and then it will fall down, and then it will die. They'll put it on another one. I don't know how authentic that is. It's part of what I've read. But then, when they were bringing, after this guy died, the people were like, no. This is a calamitous thing. Let's send back the black stone back to Haram. So only one camel carried it from their city back to Mecca. So to protect the black stone, you can see that it has some silver, protection on it to protect it from what? And it started disintegrating because it's stone. It started, peeling off. So they need to protect it. And then over the years, especially the Khulafa Uthmaniyin, the Turks, Sulaiman al-Qanuni, Abdul Hamid al-Awwal and Than, all these, Ottoman, Khulafa, they did a lot in protecting the Kaaba and the Haram. And other kings in Egypt over the years, have invested a lot of money in taking care of the Masjid and protecting the Masjid. Umar al-Khattab was the first person to expand the Masjid, because it was only a Kaaba, and it was only a small space around it. And people started building closer to the Kaaba. So when people come for Hajj to do Tawaf, it's very, very difficult for them. So Umar ibn Khattab bought houses around the Kaaba, destroyed them, and then he expanded the Haram, and then he built a wall around it, but then just a small wall around it. And then they had lights on top of the wall. Uthman bin Affan expanded it, and then up to date, it has been expanded and expanded. When I went to Hajj last year, you can see that there's still work ongoing. The expansion is still ongoing. And then the authorities in Saudi Arabia, may Almighty Allah bless them and then guide them and protect them. You might disagree with Saudi policy, but then the kind of work that they are doing in the Haram, we need to commend them. Excuse me. We need to commend them. We need to pray for them. Their shortcomings, may the Almighty Allah forgive them. They are good, may the Almighty Allah bless them and protect them and guard them. Amen. Because they are the custodians of these two holy places. If they mess up, the place is going to be messed up. So even though the Almighty Allah is going to protect these two holy mosques, the Haram in Mecca and the Haram in Medina, by using them, the Almighty Allah is protecting the place. Because look at the place. Look at the place. Constant electricity, constant water flow, constant hygiene, constant cleanliness, 24 hours access with security. It's not easy. It's not easy. And then the Zamzam water is being produced daily. It's being exported to every part of the world. It's through their word. It's through their doing. So in as much as you have issues with MBS or his father or stuff like that, yes, I'm not saying they are saints. That's what we are saying. They are human beings just like anybody. They have errors, and then they have what? They have good side. Let's praise them for the positive side, and then let's advise them for the wrong side that they do. And that is insaf in Islam. That's how we do it in Islam. Look at the electricity that they give. It is even said that when you go into space, I don't know if this is true. We say some of these things, we say it to strengthen our belief. Mm-hmm. That if you go into space and then you look out, you can see the Haram of Mecca shining and brightening because of the lighting. That's what it is said. I don't know how it is true. But I've seen pictures of aerial, shots of Mecca at night, and it is shining. Beautiful. So the Almighty Allah is going to protect his Haram, whether you like it or not. He's going to use good people, he's going to use bad people. He wants to protect his Haram. At the latter end of the 19th century, this is declassified information. The British House of Commons, the Prime Minister then was Mr. Gladstone. And then he came to the British House of Commons and then he said the agenda for today is how are we going to destroy Islam? This is declassified. This is clear information. And then he said, if you want to destroy Islam, there are three things. The first is Al-Quran. The second is Yawm al-Jum'ah. The third is Yawm Arafah. If you're able to destroy the Quran, we'll finish with the Muslims. Then one MP brought a Quran and then he started tearing it. He said, you are stupid. That's not what I mean. I don't mean tearing the papers. I mean tearing the verses out of the heart of the Muslims. If we tear it out of the heart of Muslims, we've destroyed them. Have they succeeded or not? They've succeeded. Even though it's partial. That is why we need to continue investing in the madaris. For these young ones to memorize the Quran. To know the deen. Because all these onslaught, all these showbiz and entertainment industry, that's what it's supposed to do. So the Quran. The second one is Yawm al-Jum'ah. Because they don't understand that Friday is not a weekend holiday. But a Muslim, no matter how bad he is a Muslim, he wants to be there in the masjid on a Friday. They can't get their heads around it. A Muslim, no matter how non-practicing he is, on Friday he wants to get his jalbab and his school fee to come to the masjid. They don't understand it. And wallahi, that's the source of our power. Now you see, across the world, Friday is a working day. True of us. It's all part of it. Now the next point is, the Friday, we all meet. We leave our small masajid, come to the big masjid, and then we meet. By Yom Arafah, we all leave our countries to go to one point. And Hajj is not only a spiritual journey, it's also an economic journey. It's also an entrepreneurial journey. It is also an emancipative journey. Why is it that when we go for Hajj, we don't have conferences and meetings to discuss how to help Muslims across the world? It is done, but then it is done on the level of the big men. And then that's it. They just go and drink tea and then they eat meat and then that's it. They go back to their countries and that's it. This issue of Palestine, we can solve it with just one meeting at Hajj. Just one meeting at Hajj. This issue of Syria, Libya, Yemen, all the wars that are being fought in the Muslim nations, just one meeting in Hajj. 3 million people, 4 million people. When I checked the information that in this Hajj alone, this month of Ramadan alone, more than 20 million people have done Umrah. More than 20 million people have done Umrah. And the masjid has a capacity to house 2 million people at a time. If you check right now that they are doing their Taraweeh, if you check the masjid now, it's packed full, 27th night. And you'll be surprised. Don't be surprised tomorrow if I come and tell you that they have almost 3 million people tonight. That is the deen of the Almighty Allah. If you don't support it, the Almighty Allah will send birds to come and support His deen. If you don't support it, the Almighty Allah will send rats and mouse and cats to come and support the deen. Sheikh, next verse. وَأَرْسَلَ عَلَيْهِمْ
وَأَرْسَلَ عَلَيْهِمْ طَيْرًا أَبَابِيلَ.
When these people came to attack the Kaaba, the Almighty Allah didn't send angels to fight them. He didn't send angels. He didn't send an army. He sent the smallest and the weakest of His creatures, birds. وَأَرْسَلَ عَلَيْهِمْ. He sent upon them طَيْرًا أَبَابِيلَ, birds that are huge in number, jama'at. Some of the historians say that these birds, they came from Jahannam. And each of the bird had 3 stones. 1 in the beak and 2 in the claws. And these stones are stones of fire from Jahannam. So when the bird drops the stone on the head of one of them, It enters into the brain and then it melts everything. Goes down into the esophagus and the stomach and melts everything and come out from the back. So they were destroyed. The birds came flying and they were destroyed. They had wounds. They had to run away. And Abraham himself, some historians said he was killed in Mecca. Some said he ran away with injuries. He died on the way. Some said he died in Yemen. But then he was destroyed. So if you say you are going to come out to fight the deen of the Almighty Allah, be prepared. Be prepared, whoever you are. Whether you are a Muslim, whether you are a non-Muslim. If you say Islam is your agenda, you will never win. You will never win. We have faced all kinds of adversaries in our history. The Roman Empire couldn't stop us. The Persian Empire couldn't stop us. The Hindu Empire couldn't stop us. All these empires died and Islam is still alive.
MashaAllah.
All these empires. Go and read the history of all these empires. After the World War I, the Caliphate was destroyed, but we are still alive. We're still here. There were empires throughout history that have stood to fight against Islam. And Islam, it is not our property. It doesn't belong to us. We are Muslims by the virtue of the Almighty Allah, and that's it. Not because it's our power or not because it's our wealth. No. So the Almighty Allah sent birds in groups. What did he say? Tarmihim.
ترميهم بحجارة من سجيل.
These birds were flogging them, throwing these stones at them, with stones from Sijil, from the hellfire. فَجَعَلَهُمْ
فجعلهم كعصف مأكول.
Al-Asf al-Ma'kul is, have you seen animals grazing before? Goats, sheep eating, grazing. You see, they pull this and then they go and pull this and then they go and drag this. Yes, that's how the Almighty Allah made those people look like. If you see them, it's as if goats have eaten. Do you get the analogy? Like, if you're weeding weeds, you take this, you leave this, you take this, you leave this, you take this. So it becomes patchy. There's grass here, there's no grass here, there's grass here, there's no grass here. That's how the Almighty Allah made them on the battlefield. They were turned into like grazed pasture where animals ate and they were destroyed. So Surah Al-Fil, the Almighty Allah revealed the chapter to tell the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam what happened right before he was born. And to also let the people of Mecca know that it is I, the Almighty Allah, who protected you from that and not those idols. And to send a message of caution to anybody throughout history who thinks that he can do anything against Islam or against the Kaaba, he's not going to succeed. But then part of the signs of the day of Qiyamah is the destruction of the Kaaba. The Kaaba will be destroyed. يخرب الكعبة ذو السويقتين من الحبشة. The Prophet Muhammad said the Kaaba will be destroyed, and the destruction of the Kaaba is a sign of the hereafter. And at that time, there is nobody saying La ilaha illallah. Makkah will be deserted, and it will become, a bushy place, because the Prophet Muhammad said that the Arab lands will turn back into forest, meadows, same way it used to be before. Now it is desert. Before Qiyamah, the Arab Gulf, the desert will turn into a forest. Yes, the Prophet Muhammad predicted this, and you remember very well, some few months, the mountains of Makkah start turning green with vegetation. Yes, and in Tabuk, it has started snowing. In some areas, the whole desert was turned into a river. It's going to happen, and it's all part of the messengerhood of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then it's also part of the messengerhood. He tells us that the Kaaba will be destroyed, and the destruction of the Kaaba is one of the major signs of the Qiyamah. We have major and minor signs of the Qiyamah. The destruction of the Kaaba is a major sign of the day of Akhirah. Sheikh, let's read the next surah and then we call it a day. لإيلاف قريش.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
نعم.
لإيلاف قريش
نعم.
إيلافهم رحلة الشتاء والصيف.
نعم.
فليعبدوا رب هذا البيت.
نعم.
الذي أطعمهم من جوع وآمنهم من خوف.
These two surahs have a lot of connection and correlation between them. After the Almighty Allah has told the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam the incident of the elephants and their destruction, the Almighty Allah comes and he says, لِإِيلَافِ قُرَيْشِ. Ilaf is an Arabic word that means for you to hold dear something, and ta'kif ala shay, to hold something into reverence. So li'ilafi Quraysh, it is incumbent upon the Quraysh to worship the Almighty Allah, to hold the Almighty Allah in reverence, to hold the Almighty Allah in as their God of worship. Why? Because he destroyed the enemy that came to what? To destroy the Kaaba. You don't understand the reason, the relationship within them. إِلَافِهِمْ رِحْلَةً Oh, Sheikh read.
إيلافهم رحلة الشتاء والصيف.
The Kuffar, the Quraysh had two forms of business travels. One in the summer and one in the winter. They go to Syria and then they go to Yemen, depending on the season. And the people of Mecca, if you know Mecca very well, realize that it is not a place for tourist attraction. It's very hot. Mecca is very hot. Some of the scholars have asked, why did the Almighty Allah make Ibrahim build the Kaaba in Mecca, where it's very hot, mountainous? Even entering the haram, you need to climb a mountain and then you descend before you enter the haram.
Sir.
Why didn't he let him build the Kaaba in Egypt or in Syria, where they have gardens, they have streams, where they have beautiful weather, nice rainfall, but then in Mecca, deep there in the desert, mountainous region, so that when you're going there, you don't have any other motive except to worship the Almighty Allah. You don't have any distraction. You don't have anything that turns your mind away. You're going there to worship the Almighty Allah. And imagine something. Even in the city of Mecca, there are no places where you go and say, oh, this is a beautiful skyscraper. This is as how you have here in America, where you go to, you go to downtown, you go. Mecca doesn't have that. Anybody who comes to Mecca, the first thing that comes to mind is, I'm going to the haram. I'm going to the haram. I'm going to the haram. Your mind is not anywhere else. That is how the Almighty Allah has programmed Mecca. So the Arabs in Mecca, they couldn't farm because it's not a place where they could farm. And the people didn't have, any form of factories at that time where they manufactured things that people needed. No. The thing that they had, that the Almighty Allah gave them, was the Kaaba. So people came to them because of that. So they had to go and trade. Whatever they need, they have to go and get it. They have to go and buy. So they had this رحلة الشتاء والصيف. A journey in what? In winter, and a journey in summer. These were the two seasons that they had to go and get what? Their goods. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ joined them when he was a young boy, 12-year-old, with his uncle Abu Talib, to go to Syria to go and join the trade caravan. And then Khadija also employed him, and then he went, he joined part of those, journeys. Naam, Shaykhana.
فَلْيَعْبُدُوا رَبَّ هَذَا الْبَيْتِ.
This verse is also, very important verse for us. The non-Muslims say we go to Mecca to go and worship the Kaaba. We go and bow down to the Kaaba. The non-Muslims we have in Ghana, they say anytime someone goes to Mecca, he comes out, he gets money. There is something that we go and do there. And then we let them understand that if you don't have money, you don't even go there. Because the Almighty Allah didn't make it incumbent upon a poor person to go to Mecca. It's only upon the rich people. So if you see anybody go to Mecca, he already has the money. Or someone has paid for him. So the Almighty Allah said, I have also given you protection in your journey. The Kuffar, the Quraysh, because of the importance they have with the Kaaba, the Arab Bedouins do not attack their caravans. If you know the history of Arabia very well, they live on raids. They raid each other. A whole village will be raided. They steal their things. That's what they do. But then, when they know that this trade caravan is from Mecca going to Syria or from Mecca going to Yemen, they don't attack them. So the Almighty Allah is telling them, you need to worship the Almighty Allah because He gave you safety when you are traveling in the deeps of the desert. If other people are traveling, they are being attacked. But when you are traveling, you are not attacked. So, فَلْيَعْبُدُوا رَبَّ هَذَا الْبَيْتِ. Worship the Lord of this house. We Muslims, we don't worship the Kaaba. We Muslims don't worship the Kaaba. Umar ibn Khattab said, speaking to the Kaaba, مَا أَعْظَمَ حُرْمَتَكِ وَمَا أَعْظَمَ شَأْنَكِ. He said, how important you are. How great you are, O Kaaba. لَكِنْ حُرْمَةِ الْمُؤْمِنِ أَفْضَلِ مِنْكِ. But then, the significance and the importance of the mu'min is better than the Kaaba. The Muslim, his reputation is bigger than the Kaaba. According to Umar ibn Khattab. And Umar ibn Khattab, when he was kissing the black stone, he said, أَنِّي أَعْلَمْ أَنَّكِ لَا تَضُرِّ وَلَا تَنْفَعُ. The black stone, you have no benefit, you have no evil. If not because I saw the Prophet Muhammad kiss you, I wouldn't have kissed you. So we don't worship the Kaaba. The Kaaba is a centerpiece for us. That's it. It's a place where we have it, because Islam is a communal religion. It is a universal religion.
Direction.
We have a direction. Ahya wa amwat. Wherever we are, we pray towards what? The Kaaba. We don't pray to the Kaaba. We don't pray to we don't worship the Kaaba. Because every year they change the clothes of the Kaaba and then they climb on top of the Kaaba. Do you stand on top of your God? They stand on top of the Kaaba. Who stands on his God? Who stands on his God? We don't worship the Kaaba. That is why the scholars even differed concerning the Qibla. That is it Ainul Kaaba or Jihatul Kaaba? When you are facing the Kaaba, is it that you must get the exact Kaaba or you get the position, the jihad that the Kaaba is? So if you are not in Mecca, you look towards Mecca. If you are in Mecca, you look towards the Masjid. If you are in the Masjid, then you must look at the Kaaba. So if the Kaaba is like this, is here, and then you are in the Masjid, and then you look this way, your salah is not what? It's not complete. So that is why you look at the Haram, the Masjid, it is what? It is a circle. Because every worshipper must look towards what? The Kaaba, Ainul Kaaba. But if you are not in the Masjid, and you are outside the Masjid, you look towards the Masjid. But if you are also not in Mecca, you are outside Mecca, you look towards what? Mecca. So sometimes you enter some Masjid and then everybody has 10 to a degree like this. It's not wrong. It's just difference of opinion. So if you go to a Masjid and then they are facing straight, and you are Masjid, you are looking this way, there's no need for you to fight. There's no need for you to fight. It's just difference of opinion. So, فَلْيَعْبُدُوا رَبَّ هَذَا الْبَيْتِ. نعم شيخنا.
الذي أطعمهم من جوع وآمنهم من خوف.
The Almighty Allah wants to tell the people of Mecca that worship the Lord of this house. He wants to describe who the Lord of this house is to them. He said, Alladhi, he spoke about two very important things to the Meccan people. Alladhi at'amahum min ju'. He's the one who fed them after they were hungry. Because Mecca doesn't have any farms. But if you go to Mecca, if you need fresh food, you will get it. Fresh tomatoes, you get it in Mecca. But they don't have farms. You can't farm in Mecca. Fresh apples, fresh banana, fresh. You can't set this up. You can't make this thing up. It tells you that this is the making of the Almighty Allah. You can't make this up. وَآمَنَهُمْ مِنْ خَوْفٍ. And then He gave them peace and tranquility. Mecca is a peaceful place. Since that time, peaceful place. You are safe in Mecca. And even آمنهم من خوف. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, الدجال لن يدخل المكة أبدا. Dajjal, he will never enter Mecca. Almighty Allah has angels around Mecca, guarding Mecca right now. And Medina, Mecca wa Taiba. There are angels. Their job is protect Mecca and Medina. That's it. And they are there. That's what they are doing. So Dajjal will not enter Mecca or Medina. That is why I believe the Prophet ﷺ said, if you can die in Mecca or Medina, die. That doesn't mean go and kill yourself in Mecca or Medina. One of my uncles, he's in Michigan, Sheikh Ali. His prayer is that he should die in Medina. He went for Umrah some few months ago and then he caught COVID in Medina. He called me, he said, Kishk, I thought it was time. Because my prayer was, I should die in Medina. I knew it was time. I knew. I felt it. But the Almighty Allah has not yet. It's not yet time. So I'm coming back. So if you can, it's a virtue. You die in Mecca, you die in Medina. You are buried in Baqiyah. It's a great virtue. You are buried where the Sahaba were buried.
Yeah, go on.
Will it change anything for you? It gives you some leverage. I don't know if you go direct. So today, the two chapters, we looked at the protection that Almighty Allah has given, the Kaaba, the Mecca, and some of, the virtues of Mecca, some of the rules. So please, if you are going to Hajj or Umrah, Umrah and Hajj seminar, thousands of dollars, and then go to Mecca, instead of getting reward, they get what? They get curses and come back. No. Especially as Hajj is coming, you're going to pay $8,000, $15,000 to go to Mecca. They must get the reward of the monies that they spent. So please, if you intend to go to Mecca from now, and you don't know anything about Hajj, start asking the scholars. Let them give you their time. And then when they give you their time, you to dip your hand into your pocket and zeal something to them or cash up to them. Yes. No, because it's not easy. The person will go and study, will go and look for all this hadith, and then will come and tell you, and then you say, Jazakallah khairan. Yes, okay, Jazakallah khairan. But then Jazakallah khairan too. That's just by the way. But when you intend to go to Hajj or Umrah, spend a couple of days studying and learning. Because even up to wrap the ihram, it would happen. So you need to learn that. And then you need to learn every step on the way. Because in doing tawaf, there's al-ittiba, where the Kaaba is on your left side. Your left shoulder. To what? To do your tawaf. And at every point, there is a dua that you do. Sometimes you go into you are in tawaf, and then people are doing all kinds of things. No. The Prophet Muhammad taught us everything. That is why in his Hajj he said, "Khudhu anni manasikakum." Come and learn how to do Hajj from me. And there is a reason why he did only one Hajj. There is a reason why he did only one Hajj. So you learn all those things, and Mecca is a sacred place. You don't just get up and go and do whatever you want to do. If you see someone's lost item, please leave it there. That is why they have all those security personnel. You can pick it and give it to them so that it's safe keep, so that they look for the owner. But if you decide to put it in your pocket and then you go away with it, you have problems. And there's one thing. People go to Mecca and then they come back and there's a lot of slaughtering that they must slaughter. If you pluck a leaf in Mecca, you must slaughter an animal. Yes. You're surprised. If you pluck a leaf, just a leaf, you pluck a leaf in Mecca, you must slaughter a ram. Some of the scholars say if you fell a tree, that one it is a camel. Especially the trees that are natural growing, not the trees that the human beings have planted in Mecca. And Mecca has a demarcation of, because there is a demarcation of where there is the hurma. So that is why if you're going to do Umrah and then you are in Mecca, you have to go to Masjid Aisha and take your ihram and then you come in. So because of all those, it's going to Mecca is a whole university course on its own. It's a whole university course on its own. You see those birds, the pigeons in the haram, you do hash. You must slaughter a sheep. Hash. You scare them. You must slaughter a sheep. Now. So you do it every day. You need to kill a whole farm. You need to slaughter a whole farm. Makkah is not child's play. It's serious business. That is why the Prophet Muhammad said, "Man hajja walam yarfuth walam yafsuq raja'a ka yawmi waladatu ummu." If you go to Hajj and then you do everything as it is needed, you come back home clean slate like the day your mother gave birth to you. You think this will come easy? It's never going to come easy. And then there's one more thing. Some people have taken going to Makkah as fashion now. Fashion now. It's not fashion, it is ibadah. Some people have taken going to Umrah now as fashion. It's not fashion, it is ibadah. You need to have sincerity when you are worshipping the Almighty Allah. And then finally, no selfie when you are doing the ibadah. No selfie. Hey, you man, I'm in the haram, man. No. No. If you want to take pictures, wait after you finish the ibadah. If you want to take pictures, wait after you finish the ibadah. Then you take your pictures. But then you are in your tawaf, you are doing your dua, and then hey, yes, Muhammad, hey, you know we are in the Kaaba, man. You can see the Kaaba, man. Ibadah? The tawaf is like a salat. Tawaf is like salah. No unnecessary things there. The tawaf is like ibadah, is like salah. But people do not know. So sometimes if you watch the haram now, if they are doing tarawih, some people are doing tawaf. It is only when there is salat al-maktuba, compulsory salah, then all tawaf ceases. You pray fajr, you pray zuhur, you pray asr, you pray maghrib, you pray isha. After that, tawaf. The only time tawaf is not done is when the obligatory prayer is going on. So if you are having tawaf, you are in salah. Because you don't do tawaf without wudu. You do tawaf with wudu. I think 1 hour is not enough for us. We'll have to still talk with Imam Nuh, to remind him, because he spoke to me about that we should have a Hajj and Umrah seminar. And inshallah, we will do that. Before Hajj, we'll have 3 days and just espouse on the type of Hajj. Because some people don't know there are 3 types of Hajj. They don't know. I'm going to Makkah, man. What are you going to do? I'm just going to Makkah. That's a wrong starting point. Because you should know whether you're going to do Ifrad or Qiran or Tamattu. You should know which one are you going to do. Each one of them also comes with specific rulings. Each one of them. But because you've paid $15,000, you're just going to Makkah. No. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم. We take some questions, inshallah. No.
Stop it.
You stopped it?